Hey everyone. Here's another little time lapse of a recent commission from my buddy Scott, who is this dungeon master. Um, so this one is kind of based on ancient Greek mythology, and that was really fun to do actually. I noticed something interesting. This I've noticed quite a bit actually, but I flip back and forth between, you know, well, I flip the canvas back and forth between like horizontally just to check composition and stuff like that. I do that all the time. When I record a time lapse, it doesn't actually record that. So I had to change that. The end of this one actually looks a little different because I swapped things around. Anyway, I started out with this idea, and this was Scott's, suggestion that I include this dude called a Gigan, who is a massive six-armed Cyclops, essentially. Uh, Six arms are particularly difficult to pose. You have to really think about what each hand is doing, and I think I probably copped out a little bit because I ended up making them almost mirror each side. It seemed to make sense anyway, um, but I don't know, maybe it's a bit of a cop out. The horizontal format doesn't allow for a whole ton of vertical movement, so I kind of had to stretch them across things. I also did something a little different this time, where normally I draw the background first, and this time I didn't. I'm actually not really sure why I did that. Just it kind of happenstance, because I actually really like drawing backgrounds. It took me years and years and years to get to the point where I really like drawing backgrounds. But I do. Settings are super fun, and they're kind of entirely necessary for every illustration. I always used to tell my students, like one of the first things I get them to draw is a dragon, and a lot of them would just draw a dragon on a white background. And it's like, well, where is he? Or what are they doing? Why are they there? Tell a story, right? An illustration should tell a story. So setting really helps with that. And I had to train myself to really draw. Um, like to really kind of like drawing them, and I love drawing them now. Um, so I'm, working on this guy and moving things around, and you'll notice my hero here in the foreground. Uh, he looks pretty balanced this way, but when I flip it horizontally, you'll notice that he kind of looks a little awkward. And Scott actually caught it before I did. I go back and forth with my clients, right? And Scott's great. He always has good suggestions, and they always help the illustration. To be honest, super happy to work with him about a lot of these things. They're crazy fun to do. There, see, now I flip it. Now watch his leg. He did see, like, it just looks more balanced now. Anyway, so ended up staying this way. Sometimes you do that, like, you flip it horizontally, and then you go, oh man, I kind of like that. And then this one really needed to be kind of a daylight setting, which is something I don't do very often, just because I love the contrast of dark and light. But it was an interesting thing to play with, to do some atmospheric perspective, and just think about an overhead lighting as opposed to under lighting, which I do a lot because it tends to be creepier. And you see me working on some textures here, and I'm starting to color in everything. The other thing I do a lot, almost with every illustration I do, is I end up adding a color overlay at the very end. You can see it added there. Everything just kind of warmed up a little. And I do that a lot just because it tends to bring all the colors together, so I can do any kind of weird coloring I want. But when you add that overlay, man, it looks good. Anyway, thanks.